Hey guys, Level Cap here. Today I'm going to be talking about my opinions on the 5.2 update for Battlefield 5, the one that has completely rebalanced pretty much all the weapons in the game. A highly controversial update, and also DICE today released a teaser trailer for Wake Island, which looks pretty good. It looks very Wake Islandy, and at the very end there's also a little bit of a glimpse of another map, could be Solomon Islands, a very jungly map. They also did a Reddit post on the upcoming community game server features. I'll talk about that a bit more in tomorrow's news video. Today I want to focus on 5.2, the good, the bad, and what's going to happen going forward with Battlefield 5. Now, before playing the 5.2 update yesterday, I was well aware of the general public opinion on the patch. Generally, people hated it. The comments on Reddit were very negative. Everybody was talking about how their favorite guns were completely unusable, and so I went into it expecting pretty bad gameplay experiences. However, I'll be honest, I enjoyed most of what I played yesterday. Certainly not all of it, though. I 100% agree that 13 bullets to kill at range with weapons is just too much. The FG42 is basically something that I'll never use now. Guns like the MG42 doing 13 bullets to kill at range is laughably bad. And most of the SMGs, in my opinion, are poor. This was a half-baked weapon balance patch, but I do agree with some of the underlying ideas behind it, and when I was using some of the guns that I feel were properly balanced within this realm, I was actually really enjoying myself. The STG-44 feels like a really fun gun to play. The slightly longer TTK puts a big emphasis on headshot kills, and I found myself winning a lot more medium-range firefights because I could consistently aim better than my opponents. There's less emphasis in whipping around and being the first person to shoot at your opponent, and more of an emphasis on staying on target throughout the firefight and mixing as many headshots into that firefight as possible. So the skill becomes more involved with aiming, accuracy, and consistency versus just pure reaction time and your ability to just sort of whip towards a target as quickly as possible. I found myself doing better because of that, and I enjoyed that style of gunplay a bit more than the just really fast reactionary twitchy gunplay, which honestly was a lot of what Battlefield 5 was before. Not to mention, because of the slightly slower TTK, you actually have often enough time to enjoy a 1v1 in the middle of a big firefight, because you'll have enough time to duck back behind cover most of the time before getting absolutely wrecked by every other bullet that's about to come flying your way. This is something that was really hard to do pre-5.2, and it just became extremely frustrating if you were on a team that was, say, losing harder. Your individual skill didn't matter as much because you were just being met with overwhelming force. You couldn't really fight against it, which is why I think myself and many other players who consider themselves to be pretty good at Battlefield do a lot of sniping, because at least when you snipe, you can quickly peek out from behind a corner, get a kill, and get back behind that corner before getting absolutely dominated by the force of the enemy team. Now, I feel like that gameplay is more accessible with more varieties of weapons, allowing you to have a good time, a more enjoyable time, even if your team is losing that round. Now, something that I don't think is getting enough attention right now is the new mini-map "You Are Spotted" notification. This is possibly one of the best new tools to the game. Maybe it's something that only moderate to high-level skill players are going to take advantage of at first, but having the knowledge of when you're spotted now is just incredible. I shot down so many flares while playing yesterday, saying, "Oh, you're spotted, look up in the sky. Ah, there's a flare." Flares are easier to shoot down now. They give you 50 points when you shoot down a flare. It allows you to push in more tactically. It just gives you so much more information that a good player can take advantage of. And instead of peeking over a corner and getting wrecked by, like, I don't know, 10 different guys that are just waiting for you or that can see you obviously, now you have that information to work with and you can avoid making missteps. I love having that intel. I think it's one of the best updates that's come with 5.2. The Fliegerfaust seems to be appropriately nerfed. Airplane explosive rounds also do way less damage than they did before. I found also it a little bit easier to see soldiers on the ground from a pilot's perspective. I'm not sure if this is universal across all maps, but on Iwo Jima I was having an easier time of seeing enemy soldiers running. Still, air versus ground is not in a great state. Vehicle combat in general is not a great state, but this is an improvement to what it was before. Let's talk about some of the trouble areas in the game. There was a pretty big bug with this update that kind of broke the user interface when you first loaded up the game and you had to click on the right update button, except the update button didn't say update because the text was broken in the UI. Kind of a funny bug. I figured it out after my third attempt at loading up the game there, but yeah, some people were having some trouble with that. It might have been more detrimental on consoles, I'm not sure there, but once you got past that and in game, I tried to test out the most egregiously hit weapons in the game. I gotta say, SMGs just overall are not particularly fun. They're mostly only effective in close quarters, and at that point, if you run into a shotgun, you're dead. Like, shotgun just outright beats you. Shotgun has more time to beat you in a firefight than it did before. Shotguns were already pretty damn good in close quarters. Even though they got nerfed with this patch from their kill range, they're still stupidly good. And I would be more okay with that if SMGs retained a bit of their medium range effectiveness, but I feel like they've just been hit really hard there. Especially the, like, balanced quote-unquote SMGs like the MP40 and stuff. I just, like, I couldn't play with those. I was like, nope, done. This is 100% unenjoyable. Don't see the benefit to this at all. So I think DICE needs to take a very hard look at SMGs compared to the rest of the weapon balance in the game and give them a bit of love. The semi-auto or the bolt action carbines for the medic class or whatever, they are basically unchanged, still very effective. If you liked the jungle carbine before, it's still going to be badass now, maybe even overpowered by comparison. Snipers, again, totally unaffected. So their snipers, in a way, got an upgrade because everybody else kind of got a downgrade. So snipers are going to be more effective, although their flares, now that enemy players are being told that they're spotted, are going to be less useful to them, but I think overall it's a good balance. LMGs are a mixed bag, man. Like, I was able to use some of the LMGs and have a decent fun time. I do think the damage drop off is a bit too severe with them. Maybe just knock it back a little bit. It really sucks popping out the Bren gun and dropping like 8 shots on some guy at range and just watching him like run away. And you're like, I'm sorry, what? Like, it just doesn't feel right having that much of a damage drop off for an LMG. It's a machine gun. Like, these weapons weren't designed to be used exclusively in close range. And then there's some interesting ones like the Madsen. The Madsen, which I was like, oh, 6 bullets to kill in close range and long range. This is going to be weird. It's amazing. It's a laser beam. It's a god gun. If you get a big wide open map, dear God, like, it's brutal. It's still the ugliest gun in the game and the most obstructive visually with that huge banana mag, but yeah, some guns just became all of a sudden these amazing weapons that are going to stand out, and other ones like the FG42 mentioned before become borderline unusable with the 20-round magazine. It's just like, what is the point of that weapon? Semi-auto rifles for the assault class, I think, got hit a bit too hard. Most of them saw rate of fire nerfs. Some of them saw damage drop-off nerfs. It makes them hard to use against snipers, like almost pointless to use against snipers. The Garand being a 4-shot kill at extreme range now feels weird with an 8-round magazine. Using my AGM-42, my previously favorite gun in the game, got a huge rate of fire nerf. It almost doesn't feel like anything happened to it, and then you're like, oh yeah, I used to be able to burst these guys down at medium range much better, and now I'm just getting dropped to anything that's fully automatic. The poor M1A1 carbine, just the damage drop off on that is abysmal. Your trigger finger is going to wear out before you end up getting kills with that gun. There's a lot of poorly balanced weapons in this latest update. Many of the guns were better balanced against each other pre-update, but the TTK was very fast and it did result in some, in my opinion, not as good of gameplay or skill-oriented gameplay, but it represented something that I think the community might have wanted a bit more with Battlefield. Me personally, I like the slight reduction in TTK here. It gives DICE more flexibility with map design, more open areas that players can cross without getting immediately killed. but it is half-baked. The weapon balance is not completely good. The good guns are fun to use, but if you venture outside of that, then it's just an unenjoyable experience, and DICE needs to remedy this ASAP. Otherwise, they're just not going to get actual good feedback on trying to mess with the TTK, because if you have bad weapon balance in general, then it doesn't really matter what your TTK is, people won't enjoy it. My biggest issues with the game pre 5.2 update continue to be my biggest issues with the game. The performance is still god awful. I can't maintain a good high frame rate even on fully low settings with my graphics stuff turned up all the way and running all the crazy crap in the background to try and improve my performance and tweak the visuals in the NVIDIA control panel and all that stuff. Performance is absolute trash in this game. DICE needs to make that a #1 priority for sure. We need an anti-cheat system. I'm very reserved with my accusations when I play the game. I know how good players can be, but I still see hackers, cheaters every single time I play Battlefield 5. We need a better team balancer system. If you're not going to let players switch teams, then there needs to be some sort of decent mid-round or early game team balance thing going on. And we also need a map voting system. There's so many quality of life improvements that this game still needs, and those still continue to be my top issues. I support DICE's concept for the new TTK balances. It's not as bad as TTK 2.0 was, but it's also just not balanced across classes properly. If DICE makes a really good balance update in the near future and gives some love to SMGs and semi-auto rifles and some of the other weapons that were too heavily affected by this, then I think it could turn into something good. But they got to do it fast because the community is not going to give them a lot of time with the current state of the balance. So yeah, that's my opinion. I support a lot of the concepts going forward, but DICE really does have to get their act together and update this and balance it as fast as possible. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap signing off.